look at that speed. He's just using the infotainment screen at 300 kilometers an hour. Under the bridge, close to 320 kilometers. I mean, this is insane. Into a corner as well. What? Definitely requires some serious courage if you want to go into a corner at 320 miles per hour. So this is a new Porsche Turbo S. It is an absolute beast of a machine. However, there are a couple of things that's making me a little worried about the pricing for this, because it is Porsche's first 911 Turbo hybrid. So if you look at the hybrid supercar market, for example, let's take Ferrari for example, the 296 GTB dropping like a stone. The SF90 is not any better at all when it comes to resale value. Depreciation of the SF90, I think it's probably the biggest in Ferrari history. Might actually be. We have the Corvette E-Ray as well. Corvette hybrid, and the pricing for those, I mean the depreciation for the hybrids they're just going straight down. And this new 911 Turbo is it's a lot more expensive than the old one. And when it comes to the design, I actually prefer the old one. It's just as simple as that. I'm gonna let you know exactly why in Photoshop here. There is a bunch of small details on the new one. The new one looks great. It's not a bad looking design. I mean, Porsche has always done very beautiful, very subtle, graceful looking designs. It's not aggressive in the front. They never have been, and there never will be, hopefully, Porsches. It looks very friendly, and it has a very nice, sports car two-door coupe proportions too. But there are a couple of details in the graphics that I definitely prefer in the old one. So before we jump in here to Photoshop, I want to show you this article from CarScoops, linked down below. The 911 Turbo S just went hybrid, and it's faster and heavier than before. They didn't add a lot of weight to this. I mean, it's Porsche. The engineers are just working their magical German brains to figure out how to reduce weights and still have a hybrid setup like we have here. Always doing a great job with the engineers. So Porsche's first ever hybrid 911 Turbo S delivered blistering lap times, upgraded tech, and a hefty 5-figure price increase. That is where buying this new, I don't know, it's a very, very risky situation to buy this new, because I think as soon as you drive off the lot, it's actually gonna decrease by maybe 20% or something. I mean, honestly, if you look at the numbers of Ferrari and the Corvette example, so it makes 701 horsepower and pairs a twin-turbo flat-six with an electric motor inside the gearbox. 14 seconds faster than the previous model around the ring. I mean, 14 seconds for a facelift is just insane. It's such an achievement. So in creating the 2026 911 Turbo S, Weissach engineers chose to implement the latest tech pioneered by the last year's GTS. However, while the latter utilizes a single electric turbocharger, this one decided, let's double up and do two e-turbos, with Porsche says boost output to 701 horsepower, 590 pound-feet of torque. You got 61 more horsepower than the non-hybrid Turbo S that we have today, but the torque is the same at 590. And the convertible, so they drop both the convertible and the coupe. The convertible just this spec is beautiful. This white spec that we have with the red interior. I mean, look at this. Look at this. How beautiful is this? This is a South of France, Côte d'Azur type of cruiser. Would look perfect with the turquoise blue Mediterranean Sea in the background. Beautiful, beautiful spec on that one. So the 992.1 Turbo S is powered by 3.6 liter flat six. We've seen that before, but you also now get a 1.9 kilowatt hour high voltage battery and an electric motor that's integrated in the 8-speed dual clutch transmission. Sends power to all four wheels, so you get all-wheel drive. 0 to 60, 2.4 seconds. EVs, they can, talk about 0 to 60 times and stuff like that, but I mean, 702, so it was 701 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds. This is Porsche. This is such a classic Porsche numbers. You don't need 1,500 horsepower to do 0 to 60 times in this, if you have the car being engineered in such a genius way. Power is not everything, even though 701 horsepower is obviously a lot, but it wouldn't. 701 horsepower doesn't feel like it should do 2.4 seconds 0 to 60, as improving on its predecessor by 0.2 seconds to 60 and 0.5 seconds to 124 or 200 kilometers an hour. That takes only 8.4 seconds now. Crazy, crazy numbers. The 911 Turbo S tips the scale at 3,829 pounds, which they say feels pretty hefty for a sports car, but it is a big sports car, first of all. The 911 is not, it's grown a lot over the years. I mean, a lot over the years. And it's only 82 kilos heavier than the predecessor. So again, the engineers here, they're just working their magic and, hiding the weight, even though it is a hybrid setup in this, which should, I feel, weigh a lot more than 82 kilos, or 82 kilos right there. So the driver here who drove it around the Nürburgring said you don't feel the weight gain. On the contrary, the car is much more agile, has more grip, and is significantly faster, of course, than the predecessor in all relevant sections of the track. I mean, how fast can we make these cars go? It's pushing the limit, because I think the limit now is probably tire technology. I think that would be a huge factor in lap times, of course. Now look at these wheels. These are beautiful looking wheels. We have these carbon fiber inserts in a ring around connecting the spokes. And thankfully, I think I'm saying this right, but these are not black. What a refreshing take on wheel design. And you also have this desaturated badge in the front end, looking very, very cool. Again, on this convertible trim. Beautiful design of Porsche in the back, of course, spelled out. New taillights, going to have a look at that, what's new for those. And the headlights has Porsche spelled right here in this little detail wing in the lower section. You have the 4 LEDs, the daytime lights, inside of this black housing on white. What a spec. I mean, this is a beautiful looking spec. Now, you can get it in either these oval exhaust pipes, or you can get it in much more aggressive looking exhaust pipes. Let's see if we can find them here. Right here. I'm not, honestly, I'm not a massive fan of the design of these. I think the ovals look way, way classier than this. But this is probably just a package you can add to this. Standard carbon ceramic brakes. You have 20s in the front in the wheel size, tire wheel size, and 21s in the rear. Now, it doesn't matter that we have that on a Porsche, because looking at a Porsche from a side view, it looks like the proportions are good. I mean, it doesn't bother me to have 20s in the front and 21s in the rear like it does on BMW, because in the BMW you can clearly see the difference. It's so noticeable that the front end wheel is so much smaller than the rear, but here you can't really tell. So you got vertical cooling flaps in the front, an active front diffuser at the front, and an extendable rear wing as to improve cooling, while the rear end got a tittling. I think it's supposed to be tilting right here, not tittling. I'm not sure exactly what that means. An extendable wing. Now you look at the interior here. Another reason, you guessed it, why I prefer the old one is because the old tachometer were just a piece of art. The center placed old tachometer, the analog tachometer, was just a beautiful thing to look at right in front of you when you're driving this. Now everything is digital. Shame on you, Porsche, for ditching that. The coupe is available as a 2-seater. You have the option, no cost option, to add the rear seats. The cab comes exclusively in a 2+2 configuration. Pricing here, this is what I'm a little bit worried about. If you buy this new, pricing is starting at $270,300 for the coupe and $284,300 for the convertible. A significant increase of $31,600 for the coupe and $32,300 for the convertible. That's the thing. I think if you look at the old prices here, $238,000 starting point for the coupe. If you buy this new at $270,000, once you leave the dealer lot, it's going to automatically go down to the price of the current 911 Turbo S, $238,700. So I would buy one with 500 miles on it and save $30,000, because I think honestly that is a very high likelihood that that is going to happen. So let's jump into Photoshop here. Have a look at these designs. The left side, of course, being the old one, which is the one I prefer for a number of reasons. When it comes to design, tech probably prefer the old one as well, even though it has less horsepower. It doesn't have the hybrid technology, and I'm a huge fan of the non-hybrid, just straight up turbo engines. But look at the design of the old one here. The reason why I prefer this over this is going to happen down here. A couple of reasons. First of all, these active slots, very functional. This, of course, helps with the lap time. It's going to make it faster when you have active flaps like that. I love the integration, the classic integration of the headlight unit going into the front fender here. You can see how it sticks out beautifully here on the side when you look at it from this angle. This is a Porsche line that I've always loved. You can see it more clearly on the side view. I'm going to show you that in a minute. We have a very sharp front nose here, and a nice solid base that everything builds up upon. Now, you do have active slots here in the middle as well, but the thing is, these details, first of all, these sort of gills that we have in the front, and also this curvature here, this design, how this angle goes into the lower section and creates this hollow space that it don't look nice. It just does not look as good as the previous generation or the current generation, which has a lot more harmonic integration of these features. We have 3 slots right here, and I also really liked the daytime run lights or the indicator lights down here, the LED lights that were integrated in these lines, these solid lines in the front end, and also this wing at the lower section, having a radius here at least, and not being so static that we have in the new one right here. You can see just how boxy this became right here, and also this angle that we talked about, this empty space, how it curves down like that. It feels like there's a lot of tension in this area right here that doesn't feel, you know, as Porsche-ish to me. And on top of that, we also have this line, which is a very interesting line. You can't really see it right now, but this line right here, very sharp line that, again, it feels like Porsche to me should be more subtle than that. That is a line that we did not have on the old one. Look how clean this area is compared to the new 2026 model year. It gets a little bit more robotic in the front end, and that is, you know, the trend that we have across the entire lineup of pretty much every single car manufacturer these days. Always love this chamfer that we have underneath the headlight unit, looking absolutely beautiful. Stunning design, same type of philosophy here with this light or this fender sticking out like this above the hood itself. Now looking at the side view, classic Porsche. I mean, even if you don't know any sort of car whatsoever, as soon as you see a 911, you are instantly going to recognize what it is. And that has to do with the side profile that they've refined evolution over revolution over half a century now since the first 911 came out. And this is a beautiful, absolutely stunning design. You can see the line flow here, sharp line in the bottom going into this line. It doesn't really connect to this top line right here. It sits a little higher in the back. But this intake has always been great, beautiful feature for the turbo. And of course, everything is so rounded and so smooth, organic with the 911. The proportions here, look at the muscle over the rear axle here, how it goes into very straight taillights. And here we have this design, how the headlight housing for the headlight sticks straight out, and then the nose comes in underneath it and sticks out further than that. Typical Porsche proportions here. And we of course have the same type of proportions for the new one. They're not going to switch the proportions up of a 911. That would be something Porsche hopefully would never do. They will always keep these proportions. But looking at the wheel design, I also like the old wheel design honestly better. They just look I love the simple 5-spoke or 6-spoke designs like this. These do not look bad, even though we do have the staggered setup here, 20s in the front, 21s in the rear. As you can see, we can't really tell the difference too much. Not as much as you can see in a BMW, which makes it feel like a Hot Wheels car. Now this still has the same, of course, roof line up top, A-pillar going straight down in the center point of the front axle. Same intake on the side here for the turbo. This, keep in mind, this is just a I think this is just supposed to be a facelift. You can see the aggressiveness in the rear end, how much more aggressive this area became compared to the old one right here, which has a lot more subtle, smoother, better integrated features. Same goes for the front end here with this corner right here that we talked about, the empty space in this area. But the top part, of course, looks very identical to the one we have right now. Last but not least, we do have some new taillights here. Very, very subtle design for the change of the taillights. What happened here is the wing looks almost identical between these two, even though this is a brand new wing on the new 2026 model year. But the key change here happens on the housing for the tail end. So we have a straight line now up top right here, and we also have a straight line for the housing on the top side of this integration. In the previous one, you can see that it dipped down a little bit, and I think this actually created more character for the taillights, and just having them dip down. You see this part right here, how the indicator or the brake light or whatever, I think it's the indicator light, sticks down a little bit. Now it sits tucked in very tightly underneath and it doesn't have this upswing right here in the middle like we had in the previous one. Very subtle changes. You also have this more aggressive, as we talked about, section right here with this angle now going upwards in this angle like that, which creates more of, it looks great, but for me, Porsche has never been about any sort of aggressiveness in the lines, even in the big, powerful turbo versions. It's always supposed to be very subtle, very graceful, and that is the reason why I do prefer the exterior design of the old one. And same goes for the interior. Even though the new interior right here does not look bad, it looks very similar to the old one, but there's a major change. That is that they removed this beautiful feature that was the analog tachometer right in the middle right there. The last analog feature in the entire cluster space of the infotainment screen and the gauge cluster was the tachometer. I wish they would have kept this intact. And we now have a start button right there instead of this twist, almost key-like feature that we had in the previous generation 911. And those are the key reasons why I prefer the old interior and the old exterior over the new one, which is probably going to be a very common theme if it's not already. I mean, it is already in my videos moving forward. When we have new cars, I'm probably, for the foreseeable future, I'm probably 90% of the time going to prefer the old generations for reasons like this.